Good evening. It's about, it's almost 10 o'clock. I'm in Iowa. I'm almost in Missouri now. I picked up a load of meat up north of Des Moines. And it's going to Wichita, Kansas. I've got 5 hours and 22 minutes left on my 70 hours. So it looks like I may be doing a 34-hour restart in Wichita, which I'm not excited about, but I took a load over in South Sioux City, Nebraska last night that needed to be covered from Greeley, Colorado, and so it just kind of went from there. Going to be a live unload. It was a drop and hook, although I had to wait for it to get loaded. So it was a drop and hook where I loaded. It's going to be a live unload. I'm actually about to cross the state line into Missouri. In fact, we're crossing it right now. Missouri state line. So anyway, yeah, so I'll probably end up doing a 34 in Wichita, Kansas. I'd rather do it at our yard in Garden City, Kansas, or in Amarillo, Texas, or in Greeley, Colorado, at our yard there, but where my Jeep is. My Jeep's in Greeley, or at least I can drive around, but anyway, it is what it is. I mean, you gotta take it as it comes, as they say. Big hurry. This doesn't actually unload till noon tomorrow. It's my appointment time. I did a 10-hour break back there because, like I said, I had to wait for it to get loaded. And by the time they got it loaded, I only had like 4 hours left, and I'd have a 10-hour break in. And I'd had to have taken one somewhere down here anyway. So I went ahead and just finished the break and picked the trailer up. And anyway, whatever. So I'll probably get somewhere close to Wichita and find a place to park. There's a Love's right down the street from where I'm unloading. I doubt I'll be able to get it. It'll be early in the morning. I seriously doubt I'll be able to find a place to park. In there. My pre-pass isn't working. Although the scale's probably closed, they may have turned it off. I don't know. I haven't heard that thing go off since I started driving this truck. So I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So yeah, I'm not in a big hurry. I'll get close to Wichita and I'll find a place to park. I doubt that Love to have any parking. It's right off the interstate. I'll have to find a place a little further out. Yeah, it's closed. It's closed. Somebody made a comment about the Montana story. He liked my story about Montana. And I told him I've got a better story about Montana than I do. In fact, I have a story about Montana about almost going to jail. back in the day, Texas used to have inspection stickers for trucks and trailers. They were state stickers. So they would also cover your DOT inspection. The federal government recognized them as a DOT inspection. So in Texas, you didn't have to get a traditional DOT inspection every year on your truck and trailer, as long as you had a state inspection sticker on your truck and trailer. That's all changed now, but anyway, that's the way it used to be. Anyway, mine had gone out on the truck while I was out and about. I wasn't in the state. And so I thought, well, as soon as I get back to Texas, I'll get it inspected. Excuse me. I didn't want to get a DOT inspection somewhere else because when I got back into Texas, they wouldn't accept that as a Texas inspection sticker. So I would be in violation when I got back into Texas anyway. I know it's confusing, but that's the way it used to be. Anyway, I get into Montana and I get pulled in those scales by Butte. Number one, the guy didn't like the fact that I was where I was at on my logbook. He claimed I was speeding to get there. It's back in the paper log days. And he's like, there's no way you came down Homestake Pass that quick. I was like, well, no, I did the speed limit. It was 35, I think, down the pass. Well, there's just no way that you can be here. I said, well, I'm here, man. I don't know what to tell you. Now, I used to set my watch 15 minutes ahead. Yeah, just to kind of keep myself where I wouldn't be late. You know, I always keep my watch 15 minutes ahead, and that was part of the problem. I'm not gonna say that I may not have been going a little fast, you know, before that, but part of the problem was I used to keep my watch. This is back before cell phones. You know, we had watches, and I would keep mine 15 minutes ahead. Anyway, long story short, the guy, I don't know, was in a mood, decided to do a DOT inspection, fine. My inspection sticker was out on my truck, fine. Gave me a ticket, fair enough. It was out. When I got back to Texas, I got the truck inspected, and I gave the ticket to my boss. He said, yeah, don't worry about it. I said, I'll pay it. You know, it's $65. He said, I'll pay it, don't worry. I said, okay, no big deal. So, a few weeks later, I'm going back through Montana, and I got pulled in again by the same cop. Pulls me in, and I'm going to do a DOT inspection. Alright, whatever. He said, I'll be out there in a minute. I said, all right. Anyway, he comes back out and he says, come inside. So I go inside, and he said, you remember that ticket I gave you for no inspection sticker a few weeks back? I said, yep. He said, well, you didn't pay it. I said, what are you talking about? My boss was supposed to pay that. He said, well, he didn't pay it. I said, okay. So what do we need to do? Well, you either have to give me $65 right now or you're going to jail. And I said, well, you know, there's a truck stop one exit down. Can I just drop my trailer and go down there to the ATM machine? Nope. You either have $65 on you right now or you're going to jail. I said, you're serious? He said, yeah. Now, let me back up to some of the younger drivers. Back in the day, you could pay a fine at a weigh station. They would take cash. They even had a drawer with change in it. Now, you can't do that anymore. They don't trust. I mean, I'm just being honest. They don't trust those guys with cash anymore. So you can't do that anymore. But back in the day, you could do it. Or you get a com check or EFS check number or whatever. Or a credit card if you had one. I think they would take that. But you could pay cash. And I had $65 $65 in cash. But I didn't have it with me. I could get to an ATM machine and get it. He wouldn't take my debit card. So I had to go to an ATM machine, but he wouldn't let me go. So I called my boss on the payphone. And I said, hey man, did you not pay that ticket? He said, oh man, I forgot. Why? I said, well, I'm at the scale here in Butte, Montana. This guy's about to take me to jail. He said, you're kidding. I said, no. He said, well, do you have the money? I said, I've got it, but he won't take it. He won't let me go down and get it. So I'm going to jail. He wouldn't let me give him a com check number or anything. I either had to have the cash or I'm going to jail. So he said, well, I guess they take you, I don't know. He said, I'll try to deal with it. You know, I'll bail you out or whatever I have to do. I said, you know. I said, all right. So anyway, I get off the phone. And the highway patrolman shows up. Because this guy calls the jail and says, I need somebody to transport somebody to jail. So the highway patrolman shows up. And he's like, hey, you know, whatever, what's going on? And he said, this driver has a ticket he didn't pay. So he doesn't have the money to pay it now. He's going to jail. And the highway patrolman looked at me and said, what's the ticket for? And I told him, he said, you don't have the cash? I said, not on me. I said, if I could get down to the truck stop, I have it. He said, well, I'll take you. So the highway patrolman takes me. The look on the scale master's face, man, this dude was pissed. He wanted so bad for me to go to jail. To this day, I don't know why this guy had such a problem with me, but he did. So anyway, the highway patrolman takes me down. I think it's the Flying J down there. It's one exit down. I hit the ATM machine. I get the money out. Get back in the car. The guy takes me back. Drops me off. I give the guy the money. He prints me out a receipt. Throws it across the counter and said, here you go. Get out of here. And I'm like, okay, man. And I get out of there. I mean, the guy was visibly angry that I was not going to jail. If he hadn't given me a receipt, I'd have thought he was just trying to, you know, pocket $65. But it's $65, man. I mean, really? I don't think the guy was going to try to do something that nefarious for $65. But who knows? I don't know. Anyway, I get over to Washington, and they pull me in the scale. And anyway, the guy was going to DOT me. I said, well, look, I just got DOT'd a couple of weeks ago in Montana. He said, okay, well, show me the paperwork, you know, show me the form, and, you know, no big deal. I said, all right, so I showed it to him. And he's like, he looks at it, and he said, I got a ticket for DOT inspection being out? I said, yeah, inspection sticker, yeah. He said, why, I gave you a ticket for that? I said, hey, not only did he give me a ticket for it, I said, the dude was going to send me to jail because my boss forgot to pay it. He said, really? I said, yeah. He said, wow. I said, well, you just got to know Montana, man. Or this guy in Montana. So even the DOT guy in Washington was shocked. Anyway, whatever. It is what it is, but yeah, that's my Montana story of almost going to jail in Montana over an inspection sticker that was expired. So, needless to say, I was always nervous going through Montana. Now, I was going through Montana a few times when I was working out of Alaska when I would do a lower 48 load. We had a yard in Montana. Well, Corcoran Trucking has a yard in Montana. we're affiliated with Corporate Trucking. Well, I say we, I don't work there anymore. But anyway, yeah, that's my Montana story. Almost went to jail. Of course, now it's all different. You can't give the scale guy cash or anything. You can't do that stuff anymore like you used to be able to. But I went through there one time. It was at the same weigh station. This was years before. This is when the weigh station used to be at the off-ramp to the truck stop. They've moved it. It's now like a mile before the truck stop if you're coming from the east, if you're going west. But back in the day, that scale was right there on the off-ramp to the truck stop. You take the off-ramp, and then the weigh station was right there. And the company I was working for then, we didn't have Montana on our cab card. So you had to get a permit. Well, I came through there in the middle of the night, and none of the weigh stations were open, and that's where you got your permits. So I told my girlfriend at the time, it was long before I got married, I said, well, if this scale's open, I'll have to get a permit. Now, it's my mistake. I'll say this. I should have pulled over before I crossed that scale. It's my mistake. But I didn't. I had every intention of pulling off after the scale and going in there and getting a permit. So I pull on the scale. The guy pulls me in anyway. And I go in there and he said, well, let me see your permit book, blah, blah. He said, oh, you got to get a permit from Montana. I said, yeah, I know. He said, so you're halfway through the state and you hadn't got a permit yet. I said, well, it was morning by then. I said, you're the first scale I've got to that was open. And he said, yeah, and if I hadn't pulled you in, you'd have kept going. I said, no, I was going to pull in anyway, but, you're right. I should have pulled off before I crossed the scale and walked in here, and I didn't. My bad. He said, well, you can get one at a courthouse. And I'm like, dude, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning when I come into the state, or midnight or whatever. There's no courthouses open. Besides that, I'm not going to get off the interstate and go off into some little town with a truck and trailer and try to find a place to park near the courthouse to get a permit. That's crazy. Anyway, he didn't give me a ticket. He said, I could fine you, but I'm just going to make you buy the permit. I said, well, I'm going to buy it anyway. That's fine, whatever. Anyway, I was always having some kind of issue in Montana. I don't know why. Montana's a strange state. But that's actually 2 Montana stories. I was just going to tell one. And I may have told both of them before in past videos. I don't know. But it was funner back then, but it was also, I don't know, it was a game that you played with these guys, man. And some of these guys are just, I don't know. It's like, maybe their wife pissed them off before they went to work that day or something, but you never knew what kind of attitude you were going to run into. And you'd have some guys that were real cool, You pull in the scale and the guy would look at your logbook. Well, how good did you cheat today? Kind of laughing. They didn't care. Like I said in the past video, they didn't care. As long as your logbook looked right when they looked at it, they didn't really care what you did. They knew what you had to do to get the freight moving, especially pulling a reefer. You had fresh produce coming off the West Coast or something. They knew what you had to do to get it there. It was a game. It was kind of a cat and mouse game. It was fun, but it was stressful too. speedometer buried. At that 379 peak, it would do over 100. I don't know how fast I was going. I hit 85 and buried the needle. And I remember there was a cop sitting in the median. It was late at night. I didn't see him till I blew past him. And that same girlfriend I had at the time, she's like, what are you going to do? I said, man, nothing. I mean, he's got me. I'm probably doing 100 plus. If he wants to come after you, come after. He never came after me. The only thing I can see is the guy was asleep. I don't know. But I'm not going to slow down unless I see his headlights come, him pull out of the median. He never did. But, yeah, we used to roll. Bright lights. I don't know why you flash your bright lights at me, man. I don't have my bright lights on. Yeah, we had our fun times back then. There used to be a little truck stop in New Mexico I used to stop at, and they would handwrite your fuel receipts. And she would put whatever date on there you wanted. Because sometimes you weren't even supposed to be there yet. You were like a day ahead of your logbook. And I'd say, put tomorrow's date on there. Or I'd say, just leave it blank and I'll put it on later. I'll figure it out. Or so there's no places left like that where you get handwritten fuel receipts. So. I was still paying cash for fuel back then. We'd get a money number when we left Dallas, and I'd stop out there in Weatherford, Texas. At I think I'd stop at that Petro out there. Fuel up, I'd cash in the money number, and then they'd take out whatever I got there, and then they'd give me cash back. And I just carried that the rest of the way. $600. $600 would get you to California back then. Diesel was like 99 cents a gallon. So we didn't care if we were getting 3-4 miles to the gallon. We didn't care. But yeah, you could get $600 and that would get you to California. And we'd get a money number coming back, they'd get us back. Sometimes that $600 would get you all the way out there and part of the way back, depending on how many produce pickups I had to make, how far up and down the coast I had to drive. That old 379P, that thing, man. That thing was long-legged and long-winded. In other words, it would climb a hill and it would go down a flat road, just breeze lightning. I'd come up Ash Fork Hill in Arizona in the left lane passing trucks loaded, 80,000 pounds. And that 500 Caterpillar engine, 18 speed, 411 rears. Man, that thing would run. It was wide open. But I tell you what you didn't hear about back then. You didn't hear stories about trucks just barreling through stopped traffic and not even hitting their brakes like you do today. Our accident rates were actually going down back then. You get tired enough, you'd stop and sleep. Now, maybe you'd take just a couple hour nap or something, but, you know, you'd stop, get a little rest, and get up and go again. Run a lot of apples out of Yakima, Wenatchee, Washington, all the way down to Miami, down there to the market. Then you end up sitting in Miami for 2 or 3 days sometimes because there's just no freight comes out of there unless you're hauling oranges out, or not oranges. Most of the oranges in Florida they make into orange juice, so you're going to pull them out in the tanker. But tomatoes, you get a load of tomatoes out. Couldn't get tomatoes, and you'd go up get it up into Georgia and load cucumbers or something, or sweet corn. Sometimes you can load sweet corn down in Homestead and bring it back up to Texas or something. So you wanted to make good money going down to Florida because you knew you'd either have to deadhead out of there, or you get crap rates coming out just to get you out of there, you know. Anyway, we're on the I-35 heading through Missouri, like I said earlier, on my way to Wichita. I've got 1,000 stories. I'll try to do a live stream on my 34-hour break. Not exactly sure until tomorrow when I'll be able to do it. I'll do a post or something, or a short video, kind of letting you know about when I'm going to try to do it. I kind of miss Alaska already. I really wanted to make it through this next winter before I came back, but like I said, these guys gave me an offer I couldn't refuse. Saying I'll never go back. They used to haul apples. There's a broker called Alan Lund. I don't know if some of you guys may remember Alan Lund. Nice people. They'd give us 6 days to run a load of apples from Wenatchee, Washington to Monroe, New Jersey over there to the Costco. I could do it in 4.5. So I'd stop there at the Outlaw Saloon in Ogden, Utah. I'd get a room, go down there to the bar. I got to where I knew those people. I used to do a lot of deliveries in the Salt Lake. So I'd go up there then as well. Well, I do a lot of deliveries there in Ogden, actually. Well, a lot of times I'd run chickens up to Seattle area from Arkansas. I'd run up to Arkansas and pick up a load. Sometimes I'd run flowers from Dallas, from this warehouse, to Walmart there in Clarksville, Arkansas. And then I'd go up to Rogers, Arkansas and load chickens there at the Tyson plant. And I'd take them to either Troutdale, Oregon. Well, no, I'd take them into the Portland area, or I'd take them in the Seattle area over there, the Safeway warehouse. And then I'd run apples to the East Coast. And then I'd go to the port of Camden, New Jersey, and I'd pick up produce from overseas and take it back to either back to the Safeway warehouse in Washington, or I'd take it to the Walmart warehouse. Where's that? Marysville, Washington, I think. Someone in the comments might know. I think it's Marysville, Washington. Run apples down to Brundage, Alabama too. I hated that. I hated that place. They'd always reject a couple of pallets. Not because there's anything wrong with them, but because they'd order too much. So they'd reject a couple of pallets off my truck and 2 or 3 other guys' trucks. And then you had to take them all the way to Birmingham. Brundage is down on the way down to Florida. You had to go all the way up to Birmingham to Dixieland Produce and unload those, whatever they rejected there. It was just a royal pain. I hated it. And of course you're in Alabama, so you're going to load chickens. Dry van, you might haul paper products out of there or something. You're in a flatbed, probably lumber. Go to that Winn-Dixie warehouse in Montgomery a lot. Montgomery, Alabama. Just go to U.S. Foods a lot in Montgomery, Alabama. I never much like running the South. The deep South down there. Really think anything east of Dallas on I-20 or like that, I just wasn't a fan of. I didn't mind going to Ohio and places like that, Indiana. Once they got rid of that truck speed limit in Ohio, man, shoot, Ohio was gravy. 55 mile an hour for trucks in Ohio, and they would pull you over for doing 57. And they finally realized that traffic would flow better if everybody could do the same speed, so they got rid of it. First, they got rid of it on the turnpike because people were complaining about these trucks clogging up the turnpike, driving so slow. Got rid of it on the turnpike. Then they just got rid of it through the whole state. Once they realized, you know what, this is stupid, it's not helping safety any, they got rid of it for the whole state. Now Ohio's breathing nobody behind me. Let me hang out here a second. Another freight hauler up here. Guy's going to stick to the back of my trailer. Nah, he's backing off some. I want to get some space between him and me before we get on any more hills. City. 67 miles to the Kansas line. Remember, to my four-wheeler friends, if you ever get turned around, the mile markers always go down going south and going west. They go up going north and going east. Your even numbered interstates go east to west, your odd number interstates go north to south. For the most part. Ever get turned around, and I've done it. I remember coming out of a truck stop in Virginia one time, supposedly going south. I believe it was on 81, and next thing I realized the mile markers are going up. I'm like, wait a minute, why are the mile markers going up? And then I see a mileage sign for Washington, D.C., and I'm like, whoa, I done got on the interstate the wrong direction. Well, I hit the next exit and went back around. No, I didn't try to bust you on the interstate. I took an exit. It happens. I think I've done it a couple of times. Actually, I did it in my personal vehicle coming back from Alaska. I stopped my last time getting gas in Canada there. I stopped in southern Alberta before I got to the customs house. Before I got to the U.S. line, and I came out of that gas station heading north. I'm like, holy crap, I had to cross the median there and go back the other way. It happens. And back in the day, before you had Google Maps or GPS or anything, you used to have to call the customers to get directions. And a lot of them had a directions line, like especially like big grocery warehouses. You would call and be automated, and they would, you write it down real quick while they're, telling you in the recording. But if you didn't get it right, then you get turned around. End up lost somewhere. But back then we used common sense a little more. Now you get these guys that drive off into parks, drive off into lakes. They go off like that one woman that drove over that historical bridge somewhere and collapsed it. And I think they charged her criminally for that. It was like a national landmark. She drove on it because of GPS or something. I said this in my last video, man. Technology's great, but you gotta use your brain along with it. The two have to work together, side by side. That TA in Lebo, Kansas has a huge dirt parking lot. It's kind of further out of Wichita than I'd like to be, though. I don't know. I'll figure it out. I know that's a place you can always find a parking spot. But like I said, that's a little too far out of Wichita. I'll figure it out. Not a lot of truck stops around Wichita. It's kind of funny. Like that Love's is pretty new, if I'm not mistaken. There was a time when there was nothing around Wichita as far as places to park. You had a couple of little small truck stops, but not much of anything really. Thing around Topeka, you got Love's there on the north side of town, but really not much around there as far as places to park. Not that I go to Topeka. I mean, I go through Topeka a lot with this job, but one time since when I worked here before, I went to that U.S. Foods in Topeka. I think there's a big Walmart distribution center in Topeka. I think. I don't know. Somebody in the comments say, let me know. I think there is. I remember in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, they didn't used to have a lot of trucks out there back in the day. You had that TA and Mesquite. And out there in Weatherford, west of Fort Worth, you had the Petro. You had the old, what was it, the old 406 truck stop. You had the old TA there in Denton, north of the city. And then that was about it. Then they built that Flying J down on 20 on the south side of Dallas. And then they put that, later on they put that, they put that pilot there on 22, 20 as well. Built that TA across the freeway from the Flying J. So you've got a few more now than you used to have, but back in the day, man, back in the 90s, you really didn't have much. Of course, they closed that old TA down in Mesquite. It stayed empty for years. Somebody finally bought that property. Chicago used to be kind of the same way. Now you got down there southeast of Chicago, like you were going toward Indiana, down around Lake Station and all that. They had a few truck stops, but man, they'd fill up so quick. That's about the only game in town. You had that old 76, what was that, down on 55, I think, outside of the city. But there again, that place would fill up real quick. LA area, you had the 76 and the TA out there in Ontario, and then you had Trucktown down the street from that, which was just a lot lizard's paradise for a long time. But you could find a place to park there. And I think the old Trucktown is shut down now. Of course, both those truck stops in Ontario are TAs now. You got the TA East, TA West. That was about it, man. And you always knew how the produce was going in Southern California by how many trucks you saw sitting in the truck stop. And you always knew when the produce started moving, because you'd see us, we'd all be pouring out of there after sitting there waiting. through KC, Kansas City, I like doing it at night. Not that Kansas City is that big, but it's just, I don't know, man. Whoever designed the freeway system in that town, they had to be drunk. I mean, no one stone sober would lay out a freeway system like that. It's just, I don't know, it's just really, really strange. Two-way traffic ahead. City's always irritated me. And then they'll shut down the whole freeway sometimes. And so you got to go around downtown a different way. And it's, yeah. Kansas City never made sense to me. Construction. Next 8 miles. Well, isn't that wonderful? 8 miles. Keep moving this camera because, I don't know, I shouldn't have messed with it to begin with. Here in about a long time. I've been up and down 29 a couple of times since I've been back, but it's my first time running 35 from Des Moines to KC. pick up there and take it to Cheyenne, Wyoming. It's a good little run. About the few times we'd cross the Mississippi, we'd go to Rochelle, Illinois, to Tyson IBP there, and do a drop and hook there and go to Wyoming, go to Cheyenne with that. That's a real good run. Most of the time, though, we just bounce between the Mississippi River and Utah. Pretty regional, but I can get 3,500 miles a week here easy, especially with as much drop and hook as we do. Stay pretty, pretty busy. Like I said, this is going to be a live unload in the morning, though. Not much else I can do after this anyway. Appreciate if you like and subscribe and share these videos. I had a video on my Facebook that someone from Arkansas who is actually pretty big in politics. She ran for governor a few years ago. We had a little conversation about the Arkansas State Police pulling over these non-domicile drivers, from other countries. They're not running a logbook, or they're over on their hours, or they're driving recklessly, and they just let them go. Things that would get us shut down. If I got pulled over in Arkansas and I was driving on off duty, like some of these guys were doing, I would be shut down and fined, and my company would get fined. But these guys, they're letting them go. You can see it on their body cam. They just let them go. Now, like somebody in the governor's office has to know this is going on. Anyway, she's going to share that video with some people, and hopefully we can get something changed in Arkansas, because that's ridiculous. Same thing in California, same thing in New York. These guys can't speak English or read English, and they're giving them licenses, man. Like the one guy from New York, he's got a license that has no name on it. That's what it's put for you, his name, no name. How do you even do that? They wouldn't let me do that, but they let other people do it. And then they go out here and cause accidents. I think these states should be liable. I know Florida's suing California over what happened with that guy who tried to make the U-turn on the Florida Turnpike, and they should sue him. Anyway, I don't mean to get worked up about that, but actually I do mean to get worked up about it. We should be worked up about it. More of us should be worked up about it. Got a slow poke up here. Staying pretty close to the construction speed limit. He's not doing too bad, I guess. Saw that car hit his brakes behind him, but then again, that car probably wants to do 80 through here, even though the speed limit's 60. anyway, I'll go ahead and end this video. It's been over an hour, and I appreciate you watching. Like I said, like it, subscribe. For some reason, I can't get over 1,900 subscribers. I'd like to hit 2,000. I know these videos aren't as exciting as they were out in Alaska. I get that. I'm trying. If you've got any suggestions, hey, put them in the comments, man. I know I need to start reading the comments a little quicker. My apologies, I've been a bit busy. I'll try to get better at that, but yeah, give me some suggestions. I'll take them. Like I said, I'll try to do a live stream while I'm on my break. Answer whatever questions you've got about Alaska or what I'm doing now or back in the day in the trucking industry and, you know, whatever. I'll do my best. So I appreciate you watching. Let me get around these guys. Hold on. Let me get around. I think it's another expo. I don't want to end the video in the left lane. That could be bad luck. Probably not, but I just made that up. Robert, you're passing an awful lot of people there, man. You know, you might be going out too fast there. What do you think? I don't know, maybe. Maybe so. I got 4 hours and 14 minutes left before I hit my 70 hours. So we're going to get down here ASAP. Alright. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Blah blah, yada yada, etc., etc. We'll see you next time.